Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Front Porch, your friendly neighborhood podcast. We are so excited you're able to join us for our second episode today. My name is Ethan. I am the content producer at 730 Eddy Studios, and with me today are Donny and Liberty, who are both videographers and editors right alongside me. Literally. Yeah. We all sit next to each other in the office. And today we're going to talk about film school or no film school. What are the benefits of going either route? Should you do it? Who could you meet? You know, is it worth the money? Stuff like that. So to kick it off, Liberty, if you'd like to tell the audience a little bit about who you are, what your background is. You know, that's your first time on the podcast, so it'd be great to get a little introduction from you.
For sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Liberty. And, you know, I think it all kind of started in middle school. I was partaking in a lot of theater through like my own middle school, outside of it. And that's when I decided I am going to California for college. In middle school, determined it. And sure enough, high school came around and that was still the mindset. So in order to accomplish that goal for myself, I only applied to schools in California. I was like, if I don't get in, that's it. We're done. I mean, I'm not going to college. But thankfully, I got into my number one choice school, which was the University of California, San Diego. And I went there and studied theater. And around my sophomore year was when I decided theater, not the best market we're looking for.
Job there.
I met a lot of mentors who were doing acting, and they were like, you know, struggling to get jobs after college. And I really didn't want to be in that position because I was going to a school out of state. And that's when I took on a communications major with an emphasis in multimedia communication. And from there, it was like basics of film, but we were never doing anything intricate at all. And from that, I joined a video production group. It was called TTV, Triton Television, which is our mascot. And that's where I started to learn more of the basics of film and decided that that was something that I definitely wanted to go into. Started doing 24, 48-hour film festivals, videos on YouTube, talking to other people who were actually in the film program there. And that led me through graduation. And I was there during COVID. So my junior year got cut short. They sent us all home. And then my senior year was completely online. I was stuck in a little apartment taking all of my classes, and they were doing no more programs, no more anything. And that's when I started editing wedding videos for a friend. And that's where pretty much all my experience editing started building up, you know, looking up ways to make my videos better, look cleaner. And after school, I moved to Spring Lake, and I was looking for a job, and I found 730 Eddy. And I came here and interviewed with Andy, and he was like, you know, like, we'll give you a shot. Didn't have a ton of content because it was COVID. I had done like nothing. And Andy decided to give me a shot, and I've been here ever since, sitting right next to you two.
Yeah. And you've been doing a great job, by the way.
Thanks.
You've been here for 5 months.
5 months, yeah, 5 months.
Yeah, I mean, you've been dedicated to what you've done, and you've clearly shown that you have more of an interest in the field than other people do. So
thanks, Ethan.
Yeah, of course. But Donny, you're kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
You did broadcast, right?
I did broadcast. So it was like a broadcast school. I went to Northern Michigan University up in the UP, Marquette, Michigan. I went there to study originally music, but then I switched to media production and new technologies was the name of the major. I pretty much studied video exclusively, but they did teach a little bit of like script writing, audio production, a little bit of web design. But main focus was video. And how I kind of got more into video was a professor of mine in intro to video production approached me and was like, hey, one of the local news stations is hiring. I think you should really go for it. It was a job where I would have to work from 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day before class. And so I was a little apprehensive, but I'm kind of glad that I jumped ship and did that. And from there, pretty much just cascaded into where I am today. I worked at Wood TV for a little bit. I did a little bit of corporate stuff at Spectrum Health before here, but joined the team about 4 months ago. And here I am doing some video stuff, and now I'm on this podcast.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, very different backgrounds,
Yeah.
obviously, for both of you. I guess a little bit about myself because it is relevant. I went to the film school in the area, which isn't like a big film school, but it is the film school, Compass College of Cinematic Arts. I talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, but basically my curriculum was a lot of short films, a lot of set etiquette classes, film history, basically everything you could be taught about shooting films at that time in that kind of space. But most of the college took place in a basement anyway. So, but yeah, 5-minute short films, 10-minute short films, 15-minute capstone projects, filling out various positions. I learned how to direct. I learned how to write. I learned how to shoot. And then while I was doing that education, I was teaching myself photography. So it was a lot, to say the least.
Yeah.
But California, right?
Yeah.
And Marquette, Michigan.
Yeah.
Very different
Obviously,
places.
Just a
very
little.
different places. So,
Yeah.
what do you guys think is the most? What makes your schools unique compared to other schools? Like, what about your education was different from what other people would do, or what is something that people should consider if they're thinking about film school or no film school?
So I guess I can go first for my experience. I went to a much smaller school where it was like the school itself was 20,000, but the program was about, I want to say like 60 or 70. So it wasn't a huge competition to get out there and get experience in the field in the area. Because there were 3 local news stations that you could work at. There was the on-campus news station that you could work at, and then there was an on-campus public broadcasting station. They were a little different, but they shared a studio. So there was plenty of opportunities there. And then it was just great because everyone in the industry there knew each other. So like I said, my professor was the one who approached me about the job at TV6 was the news station that I was working at the time. Approached me about that. And I don't think I would be where I am today if that hadn't happened.
I'd say mine's the complete opposite. I went to a huge school, and when you go to California to study film or work in the film business, you're pretty much a walking stereotype. You're like, oh, of course they're here. I mean, you walk into a place and you're waitressing. People are like, what do you want to be? Oh, I bet you want to be an actress. And you're like, oh, that's awkward. But everything is super competitive. I mean, pretty much everybody wants to work in the film industry there. Getting a job there is super hard. You have to have like a niche or be the best in your field to work on any movie set. And thankfully what my school did was kind of bring that down a little bit, make it a little more personal. And we had a great like rental facility for you to go, but it was a lot of you had to be self-motivated and self-oriented to go out, check out equipment, start just making your own short films, start joining clubs. And you really have to be broad and expansive if you wanted to get into the industry. No one was going to, walk you through it unless you were specifically going to like a film school there, because especially my school was STEM research. So film and all that was definitely second best. But yeah, it was very, very self-oriented.
Would you say it was competitive?
Yeah, I'd say it was very competitive. I mean, everybody who was there, as much as they'd want to be your friend, like you all knew you were competing for jobs in the future. That's how it was in like even the theater business. But with the film, everyone was willing to teach you, but there was this kind of competitiveness that was a little off-putting.
That's interesting. At my school, it was very small. There were 60 people in my class when I started, and I graduated with 24 people. I mean, and you think
Wow.
you would think it'd be competitive because of how small it is, but we all just ended up liking each other a lot. And the people that would go to film school thinking it was easy, they fell behind so quick because it isn't an easy thing to do. I mean, you're working 10 to 12 hour days on student sets where a bunch of people don't know what they're doing, so it takes a while. But Donnie, did you have any like competitive things at your school that you found, or was it never really an issue?
So I guess the most competitive thing was the job that I had, and a lot of like the broadcasting jobs, like the actual professional jobs. That was the big competition, was to see who could like get into those positions, because then at that point you're paid, you are at like a professional place. So there, I want to say I knew of maybe 6 or 7 of us who worked at news stations, and then the rest pretty much worked on campus doing either the public broadcasting or the just on-set like student film news broadcasting thing. And I think they called it Public Eye News there. But I never had to go that route, so I didn't know too much about it. It was honestly just one of those things where I think what helped me a lot was just knowing a lot of different things. I think you've talked about this a little bit before, but being a jack of all trades kind of like helps you get in. And then from there, that's when you can kind of start specializing. At least that's been my experience. So
yeah, I'm the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And that has helped me a lot, because it's like you can do whatever people ask you to do. It's like, yeah, I can figure that out, because I have a little bit of experience in it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm a photographer, soon to be hopefully a colorist. And
yeah, my specialty, I guess, would be like live production. It didn't really start out that way. It was just kind of, I would go out there and I would just film whatever. But just with my role and my career path, I've gone from directing shows to doing like operating shows, and I do that a little bit here. Austin does most of our stuff, but I kind of stepping in a little bit to help him out with that. So yeah,
that's awesome. Is there anything you want to specialize in, Liberty? Like, I know we talked about color this morning, and color's been kind of what you've been falling back to whenever I ask you. So I assume you'd like to take like a colorist route as well.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I think especially when once you start studying this and you get into the business, like you start watching film and TV differently. And ever since I've like been working here, as soon as I watch a film, I'm like, color. I like every single time. It's like all I can think about while I'm watching it. I just rewatched all the Matrix movies, and all I was thinking about the whole time, I was like, color. And I think that's definitely something I'd want to specialize in. It's so intricate, the way that colors can blend together, how they work together, how they don't work together, how they can change a scene, how they can change acting. And I just think that's all really, really interesting to me. And it's such a broad world, and I only know like a little bit of it now, and I want to know everything.
Right. It's so interesting that you went from literally pursuing a theater acting thing to now kind of flipping behind the camera to coloring. That's really cool, actually.
Thanks.
And it shows your flexibility as a person to learn and like grasp the concepts of things really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think even when I was doing acting, you have to acknowledge that there's a camera there and there's an entire process that's making you look a certain way. Like acting is such a small part of it, but that's when I fell in love with the whole big picture of everything. Like, you're doing something, but there's so many other things that go into it that you can learn about that can make you do something better. And so that's when I just want to learn everything behind the camera.
That's so cool. I kind of had the same thing, because
You also studied acting.
I did. Compass had a very, very limited acting program.
Yeah, aren't you one of like 3 alumni?
Well, it started with like 14 of us in a pretty basic beginner class, and then in my last 2 years there, it was just me and 3 other guys, or no, me and 2 other guys that.
I was right.
Yeah, that we did Shakespeare, and we would do like very intricate, like intimate acting exercises. Said that wrong. That allowed us to really hone our craft, because there were so little of us. So our teacher could focus on us individually and really help us like grow those skills, which is super cool. And And I definitely preferred that over a bigger school, I think.
Okay. I have an interesting question for both of you. How do you think your experience with acting in school or whatnot has affected your current profession of filmmaking?
I don't know, Don.
Sorry to put you both on the spot like that.
Well, I could probably answer that, but Liberty, do you have anything to say about that before I do?
I'll go after you.
Okay. I think acting has allowed me to it's allowed me to understand myself better, because I mean, in those acting classes, they're very intensive, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. You do a lot of things where you really have to dig deep within yourself and like unlock a lot of traumatic experiences and memories that you kind of put yourself through to get to certain spots when you're acting. But I learned all about like where energy is stored in your body, and you know, whether you believe that stuff or not, there is some truth to it. And it just helped me become more open and expressive and like emotional to people, I guess, because you kind of have to be if you're an actor. And I already was before that, but it furthered those qualities about me. And I think in social settings and on sets, I'm more prone to like leading people and you know, being a strong presence that can help like carry a team along, because I have a better understanding of it than other people do.
Okay. So almost like just a better presence, but also like a little bit client and acting direction.
You have more of a commanding presence as someone with acting experience, if you're confident in yourself enough.
Okay.
I agree. I was going to say person-to-person relationships are...
I'm glad you agree.
big.
I like to sound self-centered.
No. I mean, you can get those qualities without going to acting school, but that helps you realize, I'm sure, some of those things. But yeah, I think also in terms of a lot of the stuff that we do here, we do a lot of interviews, right? And making people feel comfortable in front of a camera if they've never been in front of a camera. If you've studied stuff like that, that's something you learn, and now you're expecting someone to do that in the 5 minutes that you've just met them. So I think there's ways that you can help the people that you're filming, like you said, talking to them, giving them small directions, just being there, having that emotion, like, okay, we know what you're feeling, like here's what we're going to do to try and help. And in terms of filming, like you can set up shots in ways to make people have a look, or like you can pretty much use the camera to make other people act, which I think is something that's so interesting. And I think that helps to have that insight. Like you know how to set up a shot to make someone look like they're sad. That's where the angles come in and all that stuff, which is something that maybe an actor might not know, but then you start studying the other side of it. You start picking up on those things.
Yeah. And you worded that perfectly. It helps you pick up the other side of the camera faster.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So is there anything about your guys' educations that you would change? Like, would you have gone to a different college if you could have? Or do you think your experiences at the college you went to helped get you where you are today?
I think hindsight's always 20/20. I'm glad that I had the experience that I did and I ended up where I am. Sometimes, and this happened, I think it was my sophomore or junior year of college, I realized that there's two. So at my university, there were two different like film programs. There was the broadcast side, and then there was the digital cinema side. I was on the broadcast side, and I was way more interested in video than everything else they were teaching. I'm glad I learned everything else, but I kind of wanted to switch, and so I went and talked to my advisor, and he was like, well, technically, it's a few more years for you to graduate if you switched over to it, because a lot of your credits don't count towards that. So I guess I had wished that I had switched to that earlier on so I could get that more traditional film school like experience. But I am glad that I went the route that I did, if that makes any sense. Because I think it helped me to, I guess, discover what I was actually passionate about. Because I think if I went to film school first, I don't know if I would have discovered it as quickly as I did. And I don't know if I would have gotten that same opportunity where this professor came to me and literally was like, hey, you should apply for this job. I think you'd be a really good fit there. So I guess my answer is very mixed, and I'm kind of dancing around the question a little bit here.
That's okay.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I am so grateful that I got to go to school out there, and I had awesome experiences. I think it's a good talking point when you meet people like, hey, I went to school. It's kind of like, that was the dream. I did it. Do I regret it? Slightly. School's a lot of money, like a lot of money, especially if you're going out of state. And, you face consequences with that. And me not thinking I knew what I wanted to do and then not knowing and then changing. And, I wish I knew right away. Like, oh, I want to go to film school because I think I would have learned things that I wish I knew now that I'm still having to catch up on. But that's just, a hard question. That's something hard to ask for, to know exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful that I went there. I think I got a lot of good experiences. I think anybody's different experiences are going to benefit them in some way in the future.
Yeah. Everyone's experience is valid.
Exactly. But do I wish that I would have figured out early that I wanted to go more into this? Yes. And I think maybe my path would have been different, but I'm still here. I'm here with all you guys.
Here now.
I love my life. I love everybody here. So
and look at how much fun we're having.
Yeah, you can't complain. But
so the impact that your guys' educations had on you, good, bad, wish it was better?
I'd say it was largely good. Obviously, I could always wish for more. I would say a majority of what I learned and used today, I did learn on the job, but that education is what kind of jump started where I am. So I'm very thankful for that. Obviously the debt could be a little smaller.
Right.
I think everyone can agree on that one. But yeah.
I agree. There's something about taking classes and going to a college that really shapes somebody, having that form. And it's not for everybody. I know you were saying that, college is not for everybody, but if it is for you, it's always going to be beneficial. You learn things there that I would have never imagined learning, even if it wasn't about what I wanted to study. So I thought I'm so glad I got an education. I'm happy with where it took me.
And it's beneficial if you let it be beneficial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you take it seriously, you're spending all the money, you might as well take it seriously. That's kind of what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And I would hope you would, because that's what you went to college for.
Yep.
But there were plenty of people that didn't take college seriously where I went, and all of us pulled ahead of them. And I know all of us that did take it seriously, we're all in very good job positions right now. So it definitely helps. And I guess this leads to our next question now. Should people go to film school or shouldn't they?
There's so many
factors to that.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
One thing that I think about going to film school or going to film school in general is one thing that's always been big for me, and it's the same argument for why you should go to college, is connections. Life is all about connections. That's how I got this job. That's how I've gotten every single job I've ever had. It is so big. And when you go to film school, you're going to make those connections. You are being taught by the best, who know the best, who've been through all these different experiences. You can get their insight on things. It's so beneficial to have peers and people you can look up to that are in the same environment as you, teaching you, learning from you, and you're on set with, that I think film school is really beneficial in that way. On the other hand, money is a big thing. Yeah. Money is huge. If you don't want to spend a ton of money, there are things you can learn online. There are things you can learn by just completely throwing yourself into it if you can get into it.
Yep.
And it's
you're
so
right.
hard. Yeah.
You're right.
It's so hard to come up with definitive answer on that. It's very based on you.
Well, and that's why it's always a question that people bring up, because the answer is not definitive.
Right.
If you want to go to school, if you want to make the connections, if you want to make a bunch of new friends, obviously go to film school. But if you don't have the money, but you care about it enough that you'll put in the time and the work to take on that craft and teach those skills to yourself, then don't go to film school. Your motivation will carry you to your goals in the same way school carries, people that go to that school to their goals.
Absolutely.
That's just kind of how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Liberty already mentioned the online courses that you can take. I mean, pretty much even after I graduated from school, I'm still watching classes online.
Oh, yeah.
I'm watching YouTube videos on like the top 10 Lumetri tools to use in Premiere Pro, even though I've been using Lumetri for the past like 5 years. Like I'm still learning new things every single day. So even if like you don't go to film school and you learn everything off of YouTube University, or, you get a master class and watch a bunch of film stuff, you can learn all the things. It's the big thing is the connections you have. Like you both have mentioned, that's where I made my connections and how I am where I am today. If you already have those connections somehow, like maybe, you have family who work in the industry or friends who work in the industry already, you've already got a leg up, and learning is now your big obstacle. And I guess that would be kind of where I would say maybe you don't need to go to university if you don't want to. You can learn it all online or on the job a little bit, but the connections is a really, really big thing about going to school and just attending and meeting all these people.
Yeah. And I guess connections is the biggest separating point between the two. Because like I met a guy in college. He was the first guy I ever talked to in college on orientation day. And I was in his wedding, this past summer. Like, and he and I are best friends. I mean, it's amazing the kind of connections you can make with people in such a short time, doing something that you both like.
Yeah.
Because he and I mostly trauma bonded on sets that were super, super difficult and like hard outside in the winter type. Yeah. But we still have like 2.5 minutes. We did this on the last podcast. Do you guys want to share an interesting fact about yourselves that no one else would know?
Interesting fact about myself that no one would know. Like here in the world?
Anywhere.
Anywhere? I'm gonna have to think about that. Do you have one?
I think I got one. Dane might know this. He's in the room with us. But I am a avid mushroom hunter.
I always forget that about you.
Did you? Did I tell you that too?
Yeah, I didn't know this one.
See, okay, it's a good thing. Someone else, I keep hitting this.
It's okay.
Ever since I was a little kid, my parents have taken me out mushroom hunting during the spring, and it's just become like a huge part of my life. And some might call me a junior mycologist, but I can pretty much tell you if you can eat it.
All right.
I can pretty much identify like a lot of mushrooms and tell you if it's poisonous or not, if you could eat it, if you'll die if you eat it. We're not talking like fun mushrooms. We're talking, edible. Morels are a big one. That's the biggest one that fun mushroom. That's a terrible term. Someone can not put that in here.
Okay, Donnie, how about your fact?
Yeah, that's it. That's my fun.
Anyways, I'm not going to talk about mushrooms anymore, but
maybe that was a bad fact.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
it was a great fact. You just kind of let it fall apart.
A little bit.
I tend to do that.
I think a few people in the office know about this. I know you know about this, but it's no secret that I'm a huge nerd. I love everything nerdy, but I'm a huge fan of Dungeons and Dragons. Play it every week, pretty much. Get together. Yeah. Yep.
So fun, dude.
Are you
It's so much
dungeon
fun.
master?
I have dungeon mastered before, but typically I'm one of the players. So yeah,
Nice.
I guess that's my fun little fact about me.
We should get a D&D group together.
We should get a D&D group.
I've never played, but I've always had such interest in playing.
Yeah, you want me to run a session and
I would love that. I want to make my own character.
All
and
right.
I want to win.
Oh,
Can you win?
it's more of a collaborative process, but
All right, well, we have hit the 30-minute mark. So thank you guys for coming on today and talking about it. It's awesome to get insight from other people. And as these go on, we'll introduce more people within the company and have a real diverse cast of wacky characters for you to listen to. We're very excited to have the second podcast done. We're going to record the third one soon. And we also are working on a new podcast space, actually across the hall. We're working on acquiring it.
Yeah.
But
So
once that's built, we'll have a brand new space, and it'll be really fun to personalize it, I think.
yeah, don't get too used to this setup.
Yeah. if it's your favorite thing ever, I'm sorry. But we're going to change it. So you can follow us, Instagram, Facebook, post a lot. Got some LinkedIn if you're a LinkedIn person. And we'll see you guys next time. Now get off the porch.